what is the fabrication industry, and until you really get to see it and touch it,
Yes, of
and
course.
to see their faces when they come in there and they see that laser or that brake doing what it should be doing, the level of skill that's needed to operate in this environment is at a much higher level than it's ever been. And we're introducing robotics and automation and AI. It's the way of the future.
I argue easily that our industry is amongst the most advanced manufacturing-based industries in the world. You're really at the intersection of technology meeting productivity. It's amazing.
100%.
Welcome to the Ed Talks podcast. I'm your host, Ed Youdell, President and CEO of the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, where we believe the key to unlocking our industry's full potential is through attracting, developing, and engaging the manufacturing workforce. Join me as I speak with business leaders about their unique approaches to workforce development and shaping the future of the industry.
Want to level up your manufacturing or metal fabrication career? Fabricators and Manufacturers Association connects you with the education, training, and community you need to stay ahead. As an FMA member, you'll get access to exclusive resources, industry events, and a network of professionals who share your passion for making things better. Join today and start building your future in manufacturing at fmamfg.org. And now, back to the episode.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ed.
Welcome back. This is Ed Talks edition number 3, and we have our guest today is John Surdo, President of the Americas for Bystronic. Welcome in, John. Great to have you here.
Well, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here and to spend some time with you.
Certainly, it's a great time in things are at least interesting, they say, going on in the industry and especially with manufacturing. And today's discussion will follow a similar pattern to all of our other conversations we've had, and we've had some great guests. Hopefully, folks are watching, liking, and subscribing to Ed Talks out there, so there's always the opportunity to do that. One of the things we want to talk about today is attracting talent and bringing people into the industry from a Bystronic perspective, and your ideas and thoughts on those things, from a company-wide, and maybe as you think wider about the industry, then developing what's going on inside of Bystronic to develop folks and how you're doing that to help you grow your talent and your manufacturing talent to serve your customers in our industry. And then, of course, how we're engaging with technology and the difference that technology is going to make today as well as in the future. So that's kind of the format we're going to follow, and we can jump in and get started.
Let's do it.
So the current administration really talks a lot about emphasizing manufacturing in the U.S. We won't get into the good and bad of that, but it's refreshing to have an emphasis on U.S. manufacturing. Everybody can agree that certainly is a good thing to talk about and think about. When that happens and the market grows, we're going to have to develop talent and add talent. So from the Bystronic perspective, how are you approaching that challenge of recruiting and attracting workforce to your company?
First off, I think when the dust settles and we have a bit more equilibrium in the policies and so forth, I think it's going to be a good thing for the markets. And for the U.S. in particular. And that, however, that will pose a challenge for us. We've already, as an industry, been challenged the last years with the biggest enabler, which is our people. It's much harder to find qualified people in the industry, and also people that want to come into the industry.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of initiatives behind this, right? And how do we ramp this up? But it is the one point that keeps me up at night. But from a Bystronic perspective, I mean, we do this by trying to develop very structured programs around, how do we bring people into the organization? What does their onboarding look like? What does training protocol look like? And then how do we give them progression, right, through their career to ultimately earn more, but also take on more responsibility, right, and also move within the organization. The other thing we look at is, being a global organization, we can also give them much more variety if they want to do if they want exposure to international markets and so forth. So we take it as a very serious pillar, and it's a very structured program with clear milestones and progressions and for our employees. And then the other portion of it, which I think is important, is listening to them. They're the closest to the markets. They're the closest to our customers, and ultimately, they know what it takes to keep their self, but also their colleagues engaged, right, and with the organization. So we try to do an element of all of those and bring that together to keep people engaged and attract new talent.
So in this challenge of finding the folks, have you developed any special relationships with any technical schools or community colleges or local organizations to help you identify sources for talent to bring in? And what do you think those relationships are doing for Bystronic?
Yeah, I think that's an important point, right? We use a multi approach, right? We have the relationship with SparkForce, right, with the FMA, which I think is going to bear fruit in the years to come, right? There's an investment in the initial years of these kids kind of shaping what they want to do, and I think that will start, to pull through as the years come, right? We also engage with local community colleges, right? And how do we create programs with them, and also how do we go in there and be present in there, right? And discuss different topics that relate to our industry. Yeah. And we're also focused on local high schools as well. We have outreach to local high schools within the area that we whether we go, somebody from our applications organization or so forth goes in there and does a day with them, or we invite them to our offices and they're able to do some hands-on approach. Right. And we also have a program with major universities as well, that we're engaging in their engineering departments and figuring out how can they do value-added projects, right, which would enrich Bystronic, but also enrich their experience. So I think it's a multifaceted approach, and it needs to be.
Great.
With the lack of talent that there is.
You mentioned SparkForce, which is the foundation for the FMA, and we're delighted to have you guys participating and supporting our foundation. I saw recently, I think just this past week, you had a group of campers in doing tours. Talk to us a little bit about, from the perspective of Bystronic, why is this important, number one, and what do you think it brings to the culture of Bystronic to have kids in and give them the opportunity to see what's going on inside of Bystronic? And then if you had a message for parents of students that are in there, maybe think about what you might want parents to understand about manufacturing and the metal fab industry.
I think the message to parents is that I think it's being a parent myself, I think it behooves us to expose our children to the most amount of variety as possible and give them the different options, right? Whether it's manufacturing being one of them, right, and in particular in the fabrication industry, whether or being a physician or being a scientist or being whatever, right? But I think I think we shouldn't be narrow in our thinking of exposure to our children. I think curiosity is the key, right? Yeah. And we need to foster that. We need to foster that trait, right, of curiosity and learning. So I think it's important that we allow our children to get exposure to a multifaceted approach to what industry or what profession they want to go into. And in particular into our industry, I think there could be some notions, right, or stereotypes of what it used to be. It's evolved significantly, and it's not what it used to be. The environments are very clean. It's a very sophisticated approach, right? The level of skill that's needed to operate in this environment is at a much higher level than it's ever been. And we're introducing robotics and automation and AI. It's the way of the future. And I think the final point there is that if you think of it from a noble perspective, from a fabrication or sheet metal, we touch such a variety of different segments or industries, and it has impact on everybody's daily lives. Whether it's the transportation of food or the machine that they make the food on, right? Or the bed in the hospital where we're treating patients, right? Yeah. Or and et cetera, right? So I think it also has a noble purpose because it touches so many industries that we expose to every day in our life. Yeah. So that's the first question, right? Yeah. The second question was, the impact of SparkForce and the children that we had at the offices the other day. First off, I think it's so important to allow them to have the hands-on, right? I think there's a notion of what is the fabrication industry, and until you really get to see it and touch it,
yes,
and to see their faces when they come in there and they see that laser or that brake doing what it should be doing, or the piece of automation moving the product from the cassette right to wherever it's going, and they realize the sophistication and the technology involved in it, I think they become awed. So I think it's important to bring them to the offices just to get that real life exposure and allow them to get some hands-on. It's also a critical enabler for us to develop the workforce going forward, right? Whether it's for Bystronic or for our entire industry. It's our future, innovation leaders, it's our future application experts, it's our future service technicians, and we need all of these in order to keep the industry running. So for us, it's a critical initiative. We will be 100% behind it for the years to come, and we hope to continue to build talent and some of these joining Bystronic in the future. Yeah. And then from a culture perspective, it gives a refreshing approach, right? Bringing these young adults right into the offices, it gives a different spark that day, right? The people are coming and they're excited and they're able to share what they do every day, right? With a group of younger adults that have a whole different perspective on the world, right? And so I think it's a fantastic initiative, and
it's always fun to see things through a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old's eyes when they come into one of our facilities, our industry's facilities, right? It reminds you of really the opportunity that we present. I argue easily that our industry is amongst the most advanced manufacturing-based industries in the world. The flexibility of our industry is incredible. As you talked about, all the industries that our processes, our technology touches and is used to move forward. I think we're incredibly well positioned, as you said, when the dust settles on things, maybe 6 months from now. I think our industry is really well positioned to really grow from here, and workforce always going to be a key part of that.
Yep.
One last question about workforce. Yeah. We talk a lot about having a vision for the next generation workforce. Maybe you could talk about internally and externally what Bystronic's vision is for its workforce and the external workforce, how it might be different in the next 5 to 10 years, and how do we get there, and what things you see happening going forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, especially with the such quick development of automation and robotics and AI and how do we incorporate this into the day-to-day, right? I think the operator, what it is today, is going to be much different with all of those tools going forward, and you can already see it changing. And it's going to be the way to hopefully solve this lack of resources, right? I think I hear a stat thrown around all the time that the average press brake operator in the U.S. is 57 years old. Well, that poses a real problem if we continue to operate press brakes as we do today, and you need an operator, right?
Right.
So I think the use of technology and AI is really going to change the way the operator interfaces with the machine today, and hands-on versus how are they going to use technology, right? And from afar, and produce the product, the ultimate end product that we're trying to produce.
I mean, it's pretty exciting to think about as I was listening to you talk, robotics, automation, and AI all in the same sentence related to the operator for a press brake, as an example. I mean, it's all this technology converging on this one machine. It's pretty amazing, and you would think that hopefully that will get people excited about coming to work in our industry, because you're really at the intersection of technology meeting productivity. It's amazing. 100%.
And I think, and on the other end, and from a supplier standpoint, it's also going to change the landscape.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge our customers have would be uptime, right? And keeping that machine running. That's the bedrock of their operation. And as a supplier, we can never be there as fast as they want us to be there when the machine breaks, right?
Yeah.
It's just not possible in particular in the U.S. with the size and the geography that we have, right? So, predictive and analytical and remote and maintenance and all those coming together is going to really solve that key challenge of keeping that machine running, so we can produce at the speeds that we need to, right, and get that output where it needs to be for our customers as well. I think that's going to solve a major issues from their uptime, but also because our biggest challenge today is upskilling technicians in a fast enough pace, right, to keep up with the pace that the industry is moving.
Right.
So I think all of that's going to, from an internal and external, is going to solve a lot of problems going forward.
Excellent. I'll give you the last word on workforce. Any final thoughts on it, before we move on to our next topic?
Yeah, I think it comes to I encourage in particular our youth, right, to and this is what I told the group that came, is to utilize your curiosity. I think that whether you end up in the fabrication industry, wherever you end up, I think curiosity is the key to building what the future looks like, right? And I encourage them to keep that curiosity, ask the questions, get involved, and touch and feel, and really learn what the industries are about that they're interested in.
Yeah.
So,
within an organization like Bystronic, building a culture is really important. So you've got your team there. What ongoing programs do you have, to keep your staff growing, to keep people engaged, and maybe talk to me about maybe some other companies or customers even that inspire you, and where you see opportunity to emulate what they're doing, and that you can bring to your team, and maybe even your customers, that you want to help them develop their staff and keep people growing. Tell me about some of those things inside Bystronic that are going on.
Yeah, culture is a big word, right? And everybody has their definition of what culture is, and every organization and micro-organization within that organization has a definition of what culture should be, right? But in the end, I think it all starts with giving the organization a purpose. Yeah. I think everybody needs to be aligned behind the purpose of why they're coming to the office, right? Or why they're coming to Bystronic or whatever company they are. And then how do we bring that why to life, right? And how does your everyday impact that purpose, right? What am I doing? Whether you're on the factory floor assembling the machine, right? Or the technician that's turning the wrench, right? Or the HR business partner that's trying to solve someone's health insurance need, right? Or the finance person that's trying to get us the right number so we know what to bill the customer. So it all starts with aligning everybody behind a purpose, and then allowing them to understand how their role plays, and then it's giving them the tools to be able to live out their everyday life, whether it's training, right, or progression programs, or new opportunities, or global stretch programs, or community service, right? That's part of what being involved with SparkForce, right?
Yeah.
Or something that's involved with the industry. So I think you need to it's a multifaceted approach, and it comes down to giving them all those elements so that they feel engaged, right? And that engagement is what keeps them motivated to get out of bed every day. So that's how we look at culture. There's a ton of brands out there, right? That live their purpose out through their employees every day, right? I don't want to say any particular names, but I think people, as a customer, you even feel that, right? Those great companies that have a sensational culture, right? And their attrition rates are very low. It's because everybody, from the employees to the customers, right, to everybody that's engaged, it understands what their purpose is and what they're trying to deliver and how they bring that to life.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do at Bystronic. It's a never-ending task. It's probably the hardest portion of what we do.
Yeah,
right.
It's easy to talk about and put on paper. Very hard to deliver.
It's easy to put
on.
some values, right, and a mission statement and so forth on a piece of paper. But it's how do you bring that to life and permutate it throughout the organization so everybody is aligned in it. And it's a roll up your sleeves and building it. So that's my view on culture and how do you define it and so forth.
Part of a culture, of course, is workplace safety. I know from doing some research on Bystronic that workplace safety is really an important value within the organization. How do you believe your commitment to workplace safety has helped you to recruit and continue to develop your team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the number one, right? It starts with safety. Whether it's on the customer site, whether it's while our employees are driving to customers, whether it's in our factory, whether it's in the office, right? It's the starting point, right? We need to stay safe and protect lives, right? Otherwise, there's no reason to be here. And in some instances, it's we engage in complicated situations where we're in the field, right? We're dealing with pieces of automation and heavy equipment and so forth. So it's important to have a very robust SOP, right? A standard operating procedure, program for it, and train our people and certify our people, and then ultimately the most important thing is then we have continuous checkup and continuous improvement around it, right? Whether it's spot checks or continuous reminder or coaching opportunities and so forth. So, but it starts with safety and then also measuring it, right? And doing something about it when we have a near miss or we have an incident that occurs.
Right.
And ultimately that I think us being able to talk to that and show that a lot during the recruiting process allows us to attract a talent, right? Because if they're coming in, if I was going into an organization, right, and had to go in front of a piece of heavy equipment or a piece of automation, that my life would be a major concern, right? So I think our employees need to feel comfortable that is in place, right? And they have a robust program, that a company has a robust program for that.
Yeah, our number one goal is to send everybody home at the end of the day in this same condition they showed up in the morning, right?
That's what they deserve.
As I say, it's really never talked about enough in our industry, and it was a great reminder to myself that we want to talk more about workplace safety and the importance of it. Most recently, in December, I saw that Bystronic won the Swiss Technology Award. Congratulations to the organization. That I'm sure really exciting.
Yes.
How do you think the winning of that award reflects on the innovation of the organization, your culture, and how are you using that award to really drive the organization forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the essence of how Bystronic built our brand, right? We always seen ourselves as the innovation or technology leader. We have 3 key pillars, right?
What are they?
Yeah, so Swiss quality, right? Customer service excellence, and innovation. So that's the 3. Any investment that we're making, any strategic decision we're making, we revolve around those three entities. So innovation being one of the pillars, right? It's proud that we get rewarded for one of those key pillars. But it's ultimately, we truly believe that in order to stay relevant and in order to continue to drive value, we need to drive new innovation. We reinvest a significant amount of our dollars back into R&D and into innovation, into new product development, as well as existing product development. How do we enhance that, right? It's a big number, and we have technology centers around the world that this is happening every day, right? That people are coming to work just thinking about how do we bring the new technology to the market that's going to solve customers' needs. It's the bedrock of who Bystronic is, and it's where we don't make any decisions for future investments unless it's truly innovative.
Yeah.
So
one of the most innovative, and we've mentioned it, robotics, automation, and artificial intelligence. AI is, we've written about it through the magazine, The Fabricator. It's much talked about. Every day it's in the news. I believe, from our industry perspective, I've said that if I was a job shop or a contract manufacturer, I need to lean on my technology partner because I really think it's going to be the manufacturers, machine tool builders who will lead our industry forward on and how AI will be used in our industry. So to that respect, how are you using AI internally from either a development perspective? How are you starting to adopt it from a Bystronic perspective? And then how do you think ultimately that will move into machine tool technology going forward?
That's actually where, circling back to innovation, that's where a lot of the future innovation is going, right? That's where our investment is going, is how are we going to use AI technology to improve the overall experience, right? And also the output that's occurring, right? Whether it's from parameter designs, right, or cut quality, and how do we material flow, right? How do we enable our customers to bid a job more effectively, right, and be more precise. And then on the other hand, it's what I mentioned before. It's how do we use this technology to create uptime, right, for our customers, right? And how do we get there quicker so that machine spends minimal time not in operation, so it's doing what it should be doing. So I think that it's still early. It's still early stages. We start to see different elements of it incorporated, right, in the machines, whether it's in the flat laser or in the bending technology, or in the automation and robotic with the flow processes. But I think the area that will really accelerate is how do we use it to enable our technicians, right, or our hotliners to move the customer's downtime to uptime. So that's where I see it really evolving in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned it's very early in the stage. I kind of think if it's a 9-inning game, we're maybe the second out of the first inning. I mean, it seems so much talked about, but yet we're just at the beginning of how it'll be used and developed across the metal fab industry.
Right. I think we're scratching the surface right now.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of big ideas, right? And it's ultimately the key of enabling a fully lights out smart factory, which is everybody's dreams. I think we're there, kind of, right? But I think it's the future of enabling that as we move forward in the next couple of years. So,
my last question here today is just what excites you about the metal fab industry as you look in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's what we've been talking about during this whole session, right? It's the intersection of how our industry is going to utilize AI, robotics, automation, all of those together to really accelerate and bring the world into the next phase and evolution of where we need to go, right? We're at the leading edge of that. I mentioned it that our industry touches all the different industry, right? Whether it's medical or hospitality, right, or transportation or construction or agriculture, and for us to be at the center of utilizing those technologies to be able to advance all the other industries, right, is what excites me. I think it's a noble purpose. It has a real purpose. And I think that's going to drive the world forward, and we're going to be at the leading edge of being able to do that. So
fantastic! I'm going to hold you to that.
That's what we're here for.
So that concludes today's episode of Ed Talks. Thank you, John Surdo, President of the Americas for Bystronic. Delighted to have you with us again. Thank you for all your support of FMA and SparkForce and our industry, and we wish you great success as we go forward.
And I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate what FMA does, right? And I think with the manufacturers and FMA coming together is the way we're going to move this industry forward, right, and continue to evolve it. So I appreciate everything you guys do as well. So thank you.
Our pleasure. We'll keep doing it.
This podcast is a production of Fabricators and Manufacturers Association and part of the FMA Podcast Network. The show is hosted by FMA President and CEO Ed Youdell. The podcast is produced and edited by Gareth Slager and Griffin Hammond. Additional production support by Andy Flando, Amy Hudson, Dana Weicker, Mike Owens, Billy Culpa, Elizabeth Gavin, and me, Sarah Spring. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for listening.